welcome back to my YouTube channel, guys. Today we're going to talk about that very important topic, maternity leave. How is that different in New Zealand compared to the US? And I'm going to share lots of personal stories about my experience having babies in the US and what I've learned living here in New Zealand. So this is going to be a great video, so stay tuned. Subscribe below. Okay, today let's talk about the maternity leave and benefit differences in New Zealand compared to the US. Now, first off, I'll go overview a little bit of the differences, and then I'm just going to kind of walk you through my experience in the US. I have never had a child here in New Zealand, but looking at the benefits and obviously experiencing having 4 children. If you don't know, I have 4 children in the US, and then looking at all of the benefits I could have got when I was here, to be honest, has really kind of put me in a whole mind crazy, like upset. All these thoughts have been running through, so I'm going to explain that all to you now. So first, let's go through the differences in the two countries and the maternity leave. So in the US, FMLA in the US is kind of like I remember when this came about, the new maternity benefit, which gave women 12 weeks off when they had a baby. 12 weeks off, unpaid. Okay. But what you don't understand about this when you don't live in the US, is that even though you can have those time, it's kind of like when I talked about in another video, and I'll put it up here, about how when you take holiday time or vacation time, and even though you may be given 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 2 weeks, you're not really expected to take it. And that's kind of the same feel in the US. So you can take it, but I don't know, you may not have a job when you come back. It's not guaranteeing. I think there's rules around like the campfire. I don't know everything about it, but I'm just telling you the general feel when you're working there that it's not good. And so, yeah, I think I read recently that it's the only country that doesn't provide paid maternity leave around the world. So no surprise after we've looked at how the US is the only one that's not obligated to give you any holiday or vacation time off either. So here we are, we're seeing a trend. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't some employers that do give people time off and gives them opportunity, but in general, it is not great. And it's definitely felt as a female in the workforce in the US that, oh, I hope I don't get pregnant. Oh, I might not get that promotion if I get pregnant. You kind of look down upon. It's not valued. Hopefully it's better. I haven't been like officially full-time in the workforce in a while in the US, so hopefully it's better than when I was in there. So maybe comment below if you've had an experience or I would love to hear about that. So then let's compare that to the differences in New Zealand. Now in New Zealand, you can get up to 52 weeks off if you have a baby and you don't lose your job. So when I heard a friend of mine who was going to take a whole year off when they had a baby, and they get paid for like half of that. For like 36 weeks, they get their full pay, and then the rest of it would just be unpaid time off. And then their partner can get that too, but they can't, like there's some rules around you can't take like 2 years, okay? Like you take a year and your partner take a year. I think it's a year combined between the two of you, but you can share benefits between the two of you. And like the requirement to get this is pretty low. Like you just had to work for the company for a couple of months and like 10 hours a week, like pretty easy to get. I think it's pretty, they're not going to give it to you if you're not working at all. But like, even if you're part-time, you get access to something like this, and it's just normal, and it's not treated like, a huge disadvantage to this company because you're going to take this 1 year off. Like for me as an American, when I'm hearing people here talk about it, I'm like, there's no way you're going to have a job at the end of a year if you have to take a whole year off of your position. And so that's just like crazy to me. And it's just like amazing. And so I've spent the last couple of weeks kind of thinking about this. And I am really, to be honest with you, getting more and more frustrated by this. I am like feeling very frustrated because I don't know. I think it's just taken some time. I've been here in New Zealand for 5 years. It's taken me some time to really kind of mentally start to realize how women are treated differently here, how we're valued here. Like our prime minister is female and she had a baby while she was a prime minister. And like women work, a lot of women work part-time. It's not frowned upon. So that's the thing for me. Like I always worked in the business world, but if there's no professional job that's part-time in the business world when I was in it. Hopefully that's changed. But that was so frustrating because you were like, okay, so let me just share my experience. So here I am, I'm out of university, I'm working, I have a great job, I get promoted, and then I'm in line to get the next promotion, like I've been told, like I'm getting the next one to be a senior manager. And I want to start a family because I've been married for about 5 years, and I'm not getting any younger. And so I was like, okay, but literally my option was I can't continue to do the job that I'm doing if I'm going to have kids. I mean, I can, but then like childcare is so expensive and you don't get, it's like that whole thing, like you kind of want to experience your child. And I think I felt like I only got 6 weeks off at the time, but maybe I don't remember. It just didn't feel like I don't want to have kids and not be able to experience that. But then I also don't want to just have, a job where I'm filing paperwork when I've been almost a senior manager, right? And so I literally changed careers. Like I felt like that was my only option. So I went back to grad school and then I have been teaching at the university ever since, and I love doing that, and that's great. But literally that's the reason. Like that's the reason I changed. Like I loved what I was doing. I was in the travel industry. I was traveling. I loved it. I was good at it. It was in marketing. I love all that kind of stuff, and I couldn't do it. And I didn't see it in other places either. I saw the women at my work that were VPs and senior managers with children and how miserable they were, and they're working so much. Like as you move up in management, you're just expected to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And then when I think about having kids and like just the guilt that I would feel and just like missing out on things that I don't want to miss out on, it just wasn't really a viable option for me personally. And so I was able to kind of maneuver and switch careers. But so every time once I've figured out the way that it works here in New Zealand, I'm really like frustrated by that right now. Like I'm really upset. Like this really makes me mad. Like I my whole life would be different if I didn't do that. Like my career, it's been hard to maintain a decent level of career, like on your CV or your resume, based on, raising your kids and being part-time and you're kind of in and out, and I'm switching, and it's just like all of my options were so limited. And that makes me so frustrated right now. Like if I was living here in New Zealand and having children, and they would have been free essentially and amazing services, and I don't even have time in this video to probably go into all of the services that they offer, and I haven't experienced them personally, and so, but I just talked to people and I've heard, I'm like, wow, you got all that? That's amazing. And the way that they support women just in normal laws in this country is just, what? Like my whole life would have been different if I would have had those kind of opportunities. And so women at home, it's great to stay home with your kid, but there's a lot of disadvantages to that. It's lonely. It's, you have this drive to do something and to do other things, and you can't afford childcare, and you can't do this or that. And it's not that you absolutely can't in the US, but I am just saying, like, compared to the support that you would get here, it is completely different. And another story, like I was in grad school and I was pregnant near the end of grad school, and one of my professors that was kind of helping me graduate was also pregnant. And I remember going into her office one day and she was crying and she was like really upset. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I think she opened up to me because I was also pregnant. And she was like, I'm so upset. Like I just found out that I only get 6 weeks off with my baby. She's from India, and I'm mildly familiar with the maternity leave in India, but like they get unbelievable support, time off, like even when they're pregnant and then after. And then so to her to think, I've moved here, I have this career, I love what I'm doing, but I get no support in having a child when I'm working was very upsetting. And I understand, because I can see how it would be upsetting, as this is upsetting to me as I'm coming into another culture and noticing how much better it would have been for me, and feeling that is frustrating. And same with her. She has moved there. She was very successful. She was an amazing professor, but like she had no support, and she couldn't do, and she couldn't choose to live the life that she wanted. Okay? So it isn't just enough where you have the opportunity to work, or you have the opportunity to stay home with your kids. It's just to not have the opportunity to do both in some capacity is very frustrating. And so, yeah, I just remember that story, and I remember that always stuck out to me. And now when I hear that you can have a whole year off here in New Zealand, that's amazing. And I wish I would have had my kids here. That would have been so great. I mean, I had a really good experience in the States, except for the cost. Now, just so you guys know, the cost is outrageous for me to have a baby. Actually, I will go through that in a different video when I talk again about the healthcare differences in the US compared to New Zealand. So that's what I want to talk about today, about the maternity differences in New Zealand compared to the US. I hope I gave you some insight, and maybe to think about, where you want to live. Maybe that's a factor when you're thinking about raising a family and having a family, because wow, it is really different here, and the support is really great. So thank you for watching. Subscribe below if you enjoy this channel. I talk a little bit about just what it's like living overseas as an American, and I'll see you next week.